Welcome into the Hustle Show. I am Drew Martin, joined by Adam Trigger, CT Bets, and special guest here, Kenny White. Really happy to have him, guys. We are brought to you by Viva Tequila Seltzer, vivatequilaseltzer.com. Premium Blanco Tequila Seltzer, crafted with good ingredients to pair with your good times. Zero sugar, zero carbs, gluten-free, 88 calories. Check them out. vivatequilaseltzer.com. Hustle20 as a promo code will take 20% off of your order. Viva, my favorite drink. Going around the horn here, guys. We got big game breakdown and best bets coming your way. We'll just go right down in order. Adam Trigger at Top Flight SI, wagertalk.com. Trig, welcome in, buddy. How you feeling?
Feel good, Drew. I broke my little mini losing streak this morning. Had KT Wiz. Korean baseball's still going. They go to like Thanksgiving. It's probably the longest baseball season on earth. I had a great finish to the week. 4-0 in college football on Saturday. Hit my 5%er on the Titans on Sunday. And then started this week off with like 5 straight losers. We can thank the Arizona Diamondbacks for that. Kept going back to the well with them. And they could not win a single game at home. It ends up costing them the World Series. Thankfully, and CT's been saying this since like May, thankfully we don't have to talk about baseball until like February or March or whenever again, because it was not a good baseball season for me. The worst I think I've ever had. So like to put baseball, MLB, KBO's been fine. Put baseball behind us and try to cash football tickets. And we got college basketball starting on Monday, the greatest sport ever. So can't complain, Drew.
Best sport to bet on. I agree with you. And I tapped out of the World Series as well. I bet the Diamondbacks, the Rangers won. Then I came back and bet the Rangers and the Diamond. That was the one game, the Diamond, and I just said that's enough. All right. I'll see you again in spring training. But we got CT Bets at CT Bets 16. Chris Thurston, CT Bets. Welcome on in, buddy. How you feeling?
Drew, I'm doing pretty well. I had my first shitty week of the entire year this past week, so college wasn't good. 2-5 in college, 1-1 in the NFL. But my only winner so far this week, 1-0, is on Tuesday night, Halloween, Central Michigan, plus 6.5. And I know we'll get to my good friend Kenny White in a second here, but just a little plug for him. I like Central Michigan. I always go and look at Kenny's numbers before I make a play. Kenny had Central Michigan as 2-point favorites. I liked them. That made it another banger there, so I added to that. I know, Drew, you'll talk to Kenny in a little bit. Kenny is a great friend of mine and ours. Kelly introduced us a few years ago. He's been on my old radio show on Sports Map, and we've stayed in touch, and his power ratings are the best. I use them every single day in my daily handicap, so we're really lucky to have Kenny on the show tonight, Drew. Doing great, man. It's Thursday night. We got some football games here, and let's rip off some winners, the four of us.
Absolutely, man. Excited to get after it here. And you teed it up, CT. We got Kenny White at K Whitey Vegas on Twitter, sports analyst, CEO, Sportsline CBS. And you heard it right there, KennyWhiteSports.com. You know, Kenny, I always get a lot of people, on Twitter asking me on these shows saying, hey, what do we do about power ratings? Well, guys, here's the man you need to talk to, Kenny White. Kenny, appreciate you taking the time. Welcome on in.
Hey, thanks, Drew. I appreciate it. Yeah, I've been using power ratings since probably the early 80s. My dad introduced me how to get power ratings, and I start from the ground up. I individually rate every player out on every team to get a team power rating, and then throughout the season, most sports I just adjust that team power rating from game to game. But in football, I adjust the quarterback rating from game to game. Not a lot, not knee-jerk reaction, but that, he's the biggest difference maker, that quarterback, and that's kind of how I adjust my offensive rating and defensive ratings in the NFL.
Sure, that makes it in 4 sports, right? You're actively doing?
Yeah. Right now I'm doing 4. We'll count 5 on Monday with college basketball.
Okay, so it's NFL, college football, college basketball, and then what
NBA, NHL.
NBA, wow, that's a lot, man. And I mean, Kenny White Sports is where you can find them, but I don't know. Is there any tips or tricks you need to throw out before the games?
And Drew, it's not really, it's there's power ratings, but that's really not the product that you get. I run every game, so you actually get the projections on every game that has been played. So if you're buying $20, you get college football, NFL, all those sports you mentioned. It's not $20 for each, $20 for all of them. So you get the spreadsheets, you got college football, you've got every game that hasn't been played for the rest of the year, what the line is on those games. Well, yes, well, what good will that do me? Well, you have this week's numbers that you can use, but you also have next week's numbers. So when the lines do come out early, I will update them on Monday, but Sunday night, they're not going to be that big of a difference. So you can use those projections. I have season win totals. They're updated for every team in college football in the NFL. I supply you with pace stats about how fast each team plays, how many seconds in between plays on offense, how many plays per game, their yards per play, and yards per play allowed is all adjusted to the schedule they played too. So a lot of great information there. So it's not just power ratings, it's the projections, it's the win totals, and the pace stats.
KennyWhiteSports.com. Guys, go check it out. As we got big game breakdown, best bets coming your way. Any questions, fire away here in the live chat and in the comments below. Guys, let us know where you're watching from, what you're looking to bet. All is welcome. Going around the horn here, Adam Trigger at Top Flight SI. Trig, what do you got for big game breakdown?
Yeah, before I get into big game breakdown, though, Kenny stuff's worth it just to know the difference between the starting quarterback and the backup quarterback. In college, CT and I use that all the time. I bet he probably had the difference between the South Alabama quarterback tonight. But that's great. Like I usually, if I have a question about a quarterback, I say, Chris, what does Kenny make the difference between these two? And I make him look it up for me, and we have it right away. So that's really good stuff. I'm going to go over to the NFL, though, for big game breakdown. This is a big game to me, Drew. Texans, Panthers, because I feel like I'm involved with these teams like on a weekly basis for some reason. The Panthers finally get a win last week. Texans, like, I heard that called an upset earlier this week. I don't think that was like that big of a surprise. I mean, the Panthers were going to get one sooner or later. They got healthy. They got some guys back on defense. I know CT and I weren't surprised about it. We used Panthers in the Westgate contest. The Panthers, they finally get their win. Texans, it looks like a little bit of a bad loss. But who are the Texans to really be a road favorite anyway? That's kind of how I looked at that game last week. And I like this Texans team. My rating on the Texans is probably a lot higher than most, but it wasn't really a spot that I wanted to back the Texans. Now, this is a spot I do like the Texans. And even though I'm not dying to lay points with the Texans, I think you can make a case for doing it at home. And I actually just played the money line here because for whatever reason, 2.5's juiced at every single book to like minus 125, minus 130. But a lot of these places are still giving you a minus 145 money line. I know Caesars did earlier, and there's other spots that have the money line at minus 145. So I played this client play 4%, and I just played the money line. Honestly, I probably would have made this a 5% play if I could have got 2.5 at the normal price. But now I just laid the money line of minus 145, knocked it down to 4% because I really do think they win this game. I think Stroud will bounce back here. Like I said, he played poorly last week. The Panthers were all over him, but this Bucs defense is not good. I talked about it on Hustle last week. I gave the Bills out on the show last week as a Thursday night bet. I still can't believe they didn't cover that number. I feel like they should have been up by 4 touchdowns. They found a way. The refs shuttled the Bucs down the field on that last drive for the cover, but it should have never came to that. And the Bills, it was just a weird kind of game, but I think it showed sort of the Bucs, where they struggle on defense, which is getting to the quarterback and getting home on the blitz. They don't have good pressure numbers. They blitz a lot because of that. And Stroud should be able to make some plays, in that under those circumstances. The Bucs are good against the run, but the Texans don't really run it anyway. They haven't run the ball well all year. So I think, if the Texans are smart, which is what I hope they do here, I think they're just going to unleash Stroud, kind of like they've been doing, let him go make plays. And I think there's plenty of plays to be made against this Bucs defense. And then, of course, we have Baker Mayfield. Talked about him last week, wanting to play the Bills against him because I thought the Bills, despite their weaknesses on defense, the pass rush could get home. And, of course, the Bucs did nothing offensively until a garbage time drive. So I think the Texans defense sort of sets up similar to the Bills in the respect that, they're going to give up some points and yardage unless they can really get after the quarterback. And I think they're going to get after Mayfield. And Mayfield is not good when he's got to make, quick decisions or he's under pressure and has to make throws, under pressure. So I think it's a good spot for the Texans, bouncing back off a loss to the winless Panthers. I just don't think the Bucs are a very good team, Drew. So I played Texans. I laid the -145. I thought it was a better bet than juiced -2.5. It's a 4% play for me. I think the Texans bounce back this weekend.
Look at the Texans. We got CT Bets 16 up next. CT, what do you got for big game breakdown?
Yeah, Drew, I'll head to college here, and that's Saturday here. Washington at USC. Undefeated Huskies. They come into the Coliseum, right? And they're looking pretty good. Undefeated. And I've been waiting all year for the Huskies to get to the tail end of their schedule, as I think it's going to give them some trouble. And starting with this one Saturday night. And look, Drew, I get it. Yeah, USC defensively has been an absolute nightmare. They've allowed at least 41 points in 4 of their last 5 games. But the Huskies really haven't looked all that great themselves. They were very lucky to get out and beat Arizona State 2 weeks ago, 15-7, when they were at home. They followed that up by a 9-point win as 28-point road favorites for Stanford. Now their defense is in for a real test, as Caleb's offense is very tough to stop. We've seen that. USC puts up points. Hopefully, Lincoln Riley's game plan is to blitz like Arizona State did against Michael Penix Jr., get him rattled up a little bit, have to make some quick decisions, hopefully turn into some mistakes. USC is coming off a nice kind of comeback win over Cal, right? They were down double digits the most part of that game, 3/4 of that game. Now they get to come back home, night game, with a chance to spoil Washington's season here, chance to ruin their hopes at maybe a Pac-12 championship, maybe a college playoff berth here. I wouldn't count USC out on this one. I tweeted out USC plus 3.5 a couple days ago, but number sits at 3 right now, and I'm okay with it because I think USC is going to win this game. So play on USC plus 3 for my big game breakdown, Drew.
How about that in the Pac-12? All right, USC going to at least somewhat maybe ruin Washington's season. Good breakdown there, CT. We got Kenny White up next, KennyWhiteSports.com. Kenny, what do you got for big game breakdown?
Yeah, well, let's go to Friday night. Colorado State playing at Wyoming. This is the border war. These two have been playing since 1899. They don't like each other a whole lot. So big rivalry game and a big game for both teams. They both need this game badly. Colorado State 3-5. They need 3 more wins to get that bowl eligibility. Conference game for each team. And I think it's going to be a very low-scoring football game. Colorado State loves to throw and they love to play fast. But watching them a couple games this year, they really don't play as fast as they like to say they do. They do throw it more than they run it. About 45% they throw the football. But it's going to be windy in Laramie this weekend, about 15 to 25 mile an hour winds. That'll cut down on the passing game a little bit, but it's all about Craig Bowl and the Cowboys in that power running game. They love to run it, and they love to take their time in between plays. They love to shorten the game. I think their average plays per game around 124. That's about 10 less, 12 less than the average college game. So that's going to help this stay under the total. I went under the 41. It's still there, hasn't moved.
Sure, we actually got one shop showing 42 at the Wager Talk Live odds screen, but 41, yeah, pretty much across the board. So looking towards the under there. Kenny, I was just talking with Ben Carey on the Every Game on the Board podcast. He brought up something in the border war. Did you know that the cadets from both of these two schools, it's not far, they actually carry the trophy from the winners to the actual field? Did you hear that? Is that true?
Did not know that. Yeah, no, did not know that. It's the something boot, isn't it?
Is it? I always thought it as the border war, but yeah, no, love
the bronze boot is what they play for now, but it's the border war. But yeah, the bronze boot. Colorado State leads the series 59-50-5. It is one of the oldest rivalries west of the Mississippi.
Wow. Okay. Hey, more of a serious question for you. Something Trig alluded to, Kenny. When a backup quarterback comes in, like the starter gets injured, and you have time to do the power ratings on it, can you take us into like how you would go about saying how much of a drop off, or maybe even in rare circumstances, maybe even a benefit to the teams? How do you go about doing that?
Well, as I said, I start out with the player power ratings before the year starts. So I rate every player out. My quarterbacks I rate out, and I rate them out on their size, their speed, and their experience. And nowadays, guys are dual threat quarterbacks. So it used to be really easy to do because most were just drop back quarterbacks, and you would just rate them out as a drop back quarterback. NFL wise, college, there's always been a differentiating pattern where it was drop back or a running quarterback. Now it's dual threat. These guys do both. So it makes it a little bit easier. I think that most quarterbacks, I'm rating them all more as a dual threat guy now, so that I dock a guy that doesn't run as much as the other guys do. And then I maybe dock a guy that's a really good runner that doesn't have the same type of accuracy a pocket passer has. So they all get rated that way. And then I give a rating system that I've used for years off their stats. And it's the most important number for me, two of the most important, I guess, yards per pass and interception percentage. Those are my two most important numbers. But those all add up. I get a power rating for that quarterback. And if they have 6 quarterbacks on the roster, I have a rating for each quarterback. And I know how far down the list they go. And bring up Kirk Cousins. I've got a 4-point drop-off for him this weekend. But when Nick Mullen comes back the week after that, the drop-off is only going to be 2.5 points. So it'll be a 1.5 upgrade for, when Mullen comes back and he's eligible to play for the Vikings. So it's a big help. For years, I saw the books adjust about half of my projections. And nowadays, there's more math and computer guys and sim guys in the industry. The numbers are actually moving the full amount of what my quarterback injuries are worth now these days.
And I'm guessing you see more of a move in college, just because I guess the backup quarterbacks in the NFL wouldn't be that big of a drop. Well, what's kind of the biggest drop off you've seen at the quarterback position? Like, is there a limit to it? Like a touchdown? Could it even be 10 points?
But it all obviously is who the backup is on most teams. I think the biggest I've ever maybe had was Aaron Rodgers. I guess even now when they got the kid there now, Jordan Love. It was about a 7-point drop off when Love was a rookie. Yeah.
And then in college, would it even be more? Like,
I've had some 8 to 10 point drop offs in college. If I can remember, when you get a great quarterback that goes out. I was thinking Hendon Hooker, but he did have Joe Milton behind him last year. But that was about a 5 or 6 point drop off. That wasn't as a 10-pointer, but yeah, I've had some probably 10-point drop offs.
Like it, guys. Check more out. KennyWhiteSports.com. For my big game breakdown here, I'll go to the NFL. It's been hot, guys. I'm kind of that streaky bettor, if you will. When I'm hot, I'm hot. When I'm cold, I don't know, guys. It hasn't been good when I'm cold. But in the NFL, it's been good lately, and I'm going to kind of parlay that here with the Indianapolis Colts, widely available here, -2 in the hook. Although BetOnline right now is showing -2. So that looks like the low water mark here for my big game breakdown. And I'm on the Colts on the road against the Carolina Panthers off their first win. We're seeing kind of a push here towards the Panthers. I'm going to buck that, guys. I like this Colts team. This Panthers offense has really struggled. And I think we get the better top to bottom roster here with the Colts. And under -3 is just good enough for me, guys. So 2.5, you could actually even get a -2. That is the Indianapolis Colts. Rookie first round overall selection here for the Panthers at the quarterback position, Bryce Young. And they're sitting at just 1-6 against the spread. I think they moved to 1-7 here. Give me the Colts -2 for my big game breakdown. Going around the horn here for best bets in just a second. Does anybody else want to throw anything out before we get to best bets?
Yeah, Ken, I had one more thing for Kenny here. So Kenny, Trig and I are still alive in Circa Survivor. We have 2 entries left. Kelly and I have an entry left in Circa Survivor as well. We've all been kind of kicking it around here. And the one that comes to mind to me, and I know a lot of people are thinking about this game too, is the Browns at home, right? And Clayton Tune, the rookie, out of the 5th rounder out of Houston. He's going to play his first ever game, take his first ever snap here. But my question was, what's the drop off? They're saying that Watson was practicing yesterday and today and that he might go. But PJ Walker has been pretty serviceable. And last week, the Browns probably should have won that game versus the Seahawks. The Seahawks scored like 3 touchdowns in a row, and they come back and win that game. is there much of a drop off between Watson and Walker right now? I was wondering how many points you make that, if any at all.
Yeah, it was a lot bigger difference at the beginning of the year, but obviously it looks like Deshaun Watson has lost some arm strength. He doesn't have the same cannon that he used to have, so that hurts him. And he's been banged up and injured. So again, it was at a 6.5 point difference at the beginning of the year between those two guys, but that gap is starting to close. I still do have about a 3 point difference between Watson and PJ Walker. So yeah, there still is a drop off. And I'm sure the Cleveland fans want, Deshaun Watson back and healthy as quick as they possibly can. I heard that Kyler Murray, there's a possibility that he could still go this weekend.
Kenny, what do you make Dobbs to Tune? Like, do you have? Like,
I don't have my book in front of me, but I'm going to guesstimate when I remembered about a point and a half.
Yeah, I was okay. Yeah, that's.
I kind of figured the same too.
But to Dobbs, I mean, just to 1 point I had there, like I would have said, like Dobbs has kind of like played his way up a little bit. Like I would have said there wasn't much difference like toward the beginning of the season. I feel like it could be slightly greater now just because Dobbs has really not been that bad. I mean, all things considered, when you consider the team and what he's got around him, I mean, there was a lot of people that, you go back to the beginning of the season, would not have had the Cardinals being that competitive in many of these games. And they managed to beat the Cowboys, and they managed to like hang around in like 3 or 4 of these. So I don't, man, it's just like, it's interesting to see what the Cardinals are doing. Like with now they get rid of Dobbs. It does feel like a mess. I don't know how they go to Cleveland and win, just for what it's worth.
Yeah, I agree with you on Dobbs. I thought it was a great pickup for them, actually, because they were the favorite to be the team to be winless the longest.
Sure.
To be the last winless team, and they did have the lowest power rating. I think they still have my lowest power rating in the NFL. So, but I think Dobbs did a great job, really, for what he had there in front of him. And even it's a team with a bad defense that hurts you as a quarterback too, when you got a bad defense.
It really does. And Kenny, just a follow up to that, like that's one of those tough ones with the backup quarterback, because like Clayton Tune, in terms of like regular season NFL, there isn't a lot there. And, at times in college, I can remember betting on him at Houston. Like that offense was pretty good, man. I feel like it might not be that much of a drop off, but obviously, you're the expert at this stuff.
Well, RG3 was great at Baylor too. He could put up a ton of points because he was in Art Browse's offense. So Houston's, it was a passing attack too when Tune was there. Yeah, who knows? I just rate them out as I think they are. If I don't have a lot of information on them, or if they don't have NFL experience, and then I adjust week to week. And Will Levis is a guy that I had rated as high as Ryan Tannehill before the season started, and now after his first game, I think he's 2 points better than Tannehill. I think we've seen the last of Ryan Tannehill. But against Pittsburgh, short week, going on the road, game 2 is going to be a lot more difficult for him. That's for sure.
Oh, yeah. Before we get to best bet, do you like anything tonight, college or pro?
And I'm a shotgun player. I'll play 100 plays and hope to go 55 and 45 and spread my money out. And I don't bet a lot more on one game than any others, because it's all about volume for me. I took the 3 plus even money with the Titans, and I did go under 37.5. Market's pretty much 37 right now. So always trying to get that extra half a point. I've already scouted out trying to find that under 42 for tomorrow night, if I can get 2 points extra. It's amazing. I bet 30 totals at Circa on Sunday, and on average, I probably have about a 5 point difference from what I bet to what the numbers are now. And that is one of my best plays under in that Wyoming game. And that's the one game that actually didn't even move, which is nice, because for me now, I bet 30 games, 30 totals trying to find you one, and they've all moved. The one game tonight, I went under 54, and it's 41.5 now. I have 13 point difference in that Wake Forest Duke game, because Leonard's not going to play now for Duke tonight.
Yeah, good insight there. Kenny, this under trend, really in football, but the NFL has been wild. Have you seen anything like this? Like where I mean, we're getting enough of a sample size, and for whatever reasons, unders keep coming in. I mean, can you compare this to anything you've seen in years past?
Yeah, more maybe NBA, where the NBA was such an offensive game at one point, and the Detroit Pistons said, "Hey, we're going to start playing physical, and we got to bang around Michael Jordan and beat him up, or we're never gonna beat him if we don't really play physical defensive style." And when the Pistons won the NBA championship, the rest of the league said, "Yeah, we're going to start playing defense." And I think that's what the NFL has seen, that it became such a passing league. It went from 60% run 15 years ago to now 60% pass, and the coordinators have had to figure out how to slow the scoring down and how to beat their opponents with their defenses once again, and they've been doing it. It's pressure on the quarterback. Get pressure on the quarterback. If you give him time to throw, I don't care who you are. You could be the last guy in the league. You could be Mitch Trubisky. If you have time, Mitch Trubisky is going to pick you apart. But if you put pressure on Trubisky, he's going to run, get out of the pocket. He's either going to make a mistake or he's going to throw it incomplete. He's not going to get a big play. So that's one thing what coordinators have done. They're just bringing more pressure, and they're getting to the quarterbacks.
That's a great point, Kenny. I almost wonder if, like, the NFL we're going to see a change here in the draft. Actually, one of the commenters on the opening line report right here on the Wager Talk YouTube channel brought up an interesting kind of scenario where there's more first-round offensive busts than defensive busts. I mean, maybe outside of the quarterback position, I wouldn't be surprised if we just start seeing that more, like defensive linemen, linebackers that get out of the quarterback, seeing teams draft that profile more, like almost maybe the prop bets of the NFL draft market, like bet more defensive players in the next coming years. I don't know. Could you see something like that happening?
I really could. Betting the draft is one of my favorite things to bet because it's really not predictable, which for us helps because it's most of the time, it's the only time I'm betting over. Most of the time I'm betting under in every sport, but in the NFL draft, I'm betting over because I want to go over if he's going to be picked 6.5 or 7.5 or 12.5 or 15.5, because it only takes one surprise to knock everybody down one. And for one guy to not go where he's supposed to really now make it drop 2 spots off where you're supposed to go. So, yeah, that's something very interesting to look at. I would think it would be much easier to find an offensive lineman or a defensive player than it is for a skill position player. I think skill position players are a dime a dozen. Running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends, I think really are a dime a dozen. You can find those guys almost anywhere. You really can.
I mean, look at the Vikings. Like Justin Jefferson's arguably the best receiver in football. He goes down, they're winning games. They figure out a way to move the ball. It took Cousins all of 1 week to figure out how they were going to move the ball, and they did no problem. So if you can replace Jefferson in a week, I mean, what does that say for the rest of the league? They're not his caliber player.
It's still a point to, a 1 1.25 points off for Jefferson. So that's one of the biggest drops I have for a wide receiver, though. There's so many talented athletes out there that you look at the running back position. You got some real good running backs. Some have never even been drafted, and they play well. Some of these guys played at D3 schools. We've got a quarterback for the Bears playing, I think it was D2 or D3. Playing the NFL now.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think he won like the Heisman Trophy at the D2 level. That's just an interesting kind of scenario. Kenny, last question before we get to best bets, man. What about this Thursday night prime time under trend? I mean, we're at like 67% over the last 3 years. I've never seen anything like that. Any thoughts on that, like the prime time games going under?
It's so funny how things run like that. Major League Baseball All-Star game for years, it was the National League. Then it was the American League, and they'd win like 18 in a row. I can remember back, I was doing a show called the Line Makers on Velocity TV and streaming on the web years ago at South Point. And my friend Richie Baccellieri, who's down there at Cirque all the time, was the inventor of stadium technology that most of the betting apps are run off of. Well, I can remember back then, this was 2012, 2013, in those years, every primetime game was going over. That's all Richie would say. Primetime game, just bet it over. They all go over. Every primetime game goes over. And they were. If you go back and look, it was like a 3-year period that every Thursday night, every Sunday night, and every Monday night game went over. Now they're all going under. And that's because the strategies have changed. You know, it's a defensive league now. The totals are lower than I've ever seen them. We've got totals in the 30s, 35 in an NFL game. It's crazy. And a lot of it has to do with lack of experience at the quarterback position. We have 11 backup quarterbacks playing this weekend. Starting.
Love that stat.
Starting.
11. Wow. Backup quarterback starting this weekend. Guys, best bets coming up. Huge shout out to Kenny White, KennyWhiteSports.com, where you can check out his power ratings, all the numbers that he alluded to. And guys, a reminder, we are brought to you by Viva Tequila Seltzer, VivaTequilaSeltzer.com, the most refreshing hard seltzer on the market. It's no wonder why Viva was voted #1 hard seltzer in the world by the San Francisco World Spirits Competition this year, with only 88 calories, 0 carbs, 0 sugar, 4.5% ABV. Viva, the perfect drink for your post-game celebrations, as it was created with the active lifestyle in mind. There you see it, guys. Viva, before having it and after. CT Betts himself. Good stuff. Grow up, drink tequila, VivaTequilaSeltzer.com. Use the promo code HUSTLE20 at checkout. It takes 20% off your order. Best bets now. Please comment below where you agree, where you disagree. All is welcome. Adam Trigger at TopFlightSI on Twitter, WagerTalk.com. Trig, what do you got for best bets? Final thoughts for the show?
Yeah, I'll go right to my best bet. I'm going to stay in the NFL. As you guys know, I'm a lower volume guy. I only had 2 NFL bets last week. I hit the Titans with my 5%er, and I lost a 4%er on the Bears, which I will admit I was on the wrong side there. But I think that was a little bit misleading. Just the game in general, the final result. And I'm talking in relation to like the Chargers, because I'm going to come back and fade them here. I like the Jets. I believe this is the Monday night game, but I think I would, take the points here with the Jets. You go back to the Chargers game against the Bears on Sunday night. I mean, you quickly look, it looks like they absolutely dominated, which they moved the ball well, and they probably dominated in that regard. But on the score sheet, it just looks like a very one-sided win. And I don't really think that that's reflective of at least the game I saw. The Bears had no answer for this like misdirection where the Chargers would pull people to one side and just kind of dump it off to Eckler. I think the Jets will have an answer for that. And then the Bears just dropped. I mean, they think they dropped 6 balls. They could have easily been in line to backdoor that number. But they just really beat themselves, in my opinion. And so what does that mean? Well, that means we have a nice inflated Chargers team coming off of a sort of an easy win that we can go against. And I gotta be honest, Drew, I don't think any team relative to what I thought they would be at the beginning of the season is worse than the Chargers. Because I really thought that this team was going to be like phenomenal at the beginning of the year. And I just haven't seen it watching them play. I think it really comes to the defense more than the offense. They're not getting, Kenny just made the point that like how important getting home on the quarterback is and generating pass rush. The Chargers numbers on pressure rating are way, way down this year. Now, you could say that because Bosa wasn't healthy for a period of time. And that's probably true. You probably need to upgrade them, as he gets healthy and is in there going forward. But still, they're not. This isn't that good of a defense, in my opinion, and that's why I'm not as worried backing like guys like Zach Wilson here. He looked really bad last week, but that's a Giants defense that's played a lot better. I think that there will be opportunities for Wilson to make plays in this game and move the ball. And who knows, they could even get Breece Hall going. Chargers run defense has been pretty good. But Hall is a pretty dynamic athlete out of the backfield. He's quickly climbing my, chart of running backs I'm sort of willing to back, or I like to back in this league. The Jets defense is fantastic. I think they're one of the elite defenses in the league. And they get as much pressure on opposing quarterbacks as any other defense in football. And when does Justin Herbert struggle? He struggles when he's under pressure, and he's going to be under a lot of it in this game. I like the Jets. I still think the Jets are a pretty good team. I've kind of felt that way all year. I've been trying to find a spot to bet them. CT and I kind of talked about them a little bit last week. We didn't really want to lay the 3. But I think this is I much prefer this team in the underdog role, and that's where we're getting him here. So I like the Jets. They'll be my best bet for the show.
Guys, for my best bet, I'm heading to the college football Saturday slate, and I'm laying the wood with the Tennessee Volunteers. You can get them as low as minus 35 right now. Minus 35.5 is the widely available number. Couple reasons why. First off, UConn hasn't played a team with as much talent as the Vols have. Kind of the closest thing would be like Duke and Georgia State. And they didn't come close to covering either of those two games. I think they're going to have a tough time stepping up in class. In Tennessee, this is one thing that I've kind of been betting on the last couple years. When they have the ability to run up the score, they do. The last 11 times they've been favored by more than 2 touchdowns. They're 9-2 against the spread. Josh Heupel, I remember going back from his UCF days, they will run it up, kind of keep throwing the ball down the field with a big lead in the second half, in the fourth quarter. It's not just ISOs and dives. That's something I like to bet and have had some success doing. So Josh Heupel, Tennessee Volunteers, backup quarterback in, like Kenny White's talking about. I don't think it will be that big of a drop-off, and they'll still be throwing the ball down the field. Looks like mid-60s, clear skies in Knoxville on Saturday. Neyland Stadium, I think it gets ugly here, guys. Tennessee Vols, they roll big. I think it's like 55-7, something like that. Minus 35 for Tennessee. That is my best bet. We got CT Bet 16 on Twitter. Chris Thurston, he knows his Viva Tequila Seltzer. CT, final thoughts, best bet for the show?
Thanks, Drew. Yeah, final thoughts. Can't thank Kenny enough for coming on the show tonight. Like I said, very good friend of mine and ours. So can't tell you how many people have texted us, DM'd us, Kenny, saying, when are you guys having Kenny back on? So it's much appreciated. I use his numbers every single week in my handicap, both NFL and college football, and he does all the sports. So thank you very much there. And Drew, before I get into my best bet, Trig and I are still rolling in the Westgate contest here. We're tied for 7th in the pick 5. So we're gonna try and keep it rolling here. 3-2 last week. We need a 5-0 banger. So hoping for one this weekend, Drew. So we're gonna keep that rocking and rolling, and I'll head right into my best bet. I'm going to stay in college football here. LSU at Bama, Drew, and this loss last year for Bama, that was the reason why they missed the playoffs, and they were forced to play K-State and murder them in the Sugar Bowl. And you could bet this game hasn't been forgotten in old Nick's head. Really like the way the Tide's offense has been picking up steam and playing with some authority lately. 2 weeks ago, Bama down 27 at the half versus the Vols. Saban makes some adjustments, right? And they score 27 unanswered to blast the Vols 34-20. Saban always talks about how hard it is to get these young kids to get up for games. How you really only get them to really, really get up for 2-3 games a year, and that's a win in his book. I think this game this weekend, revenge spot, is one of those games that Saban's going to be able to get these kids up for. Both teams coming off the bye, but I think Bama, much scarier off the bye here. Saban off the bye, coaching mismatch here, revenge spot. I like the way that Milrose playing. Defense has been playing much better for the Tide. I'll lay the short number at home here, Drew. Best bet, play on Bam Bam, -3.
The game of the century, LSU into Alabama. Remember when they used to call it that? That's, I don't know, coming from an Auburn alum, that it used to always make me laugh. We got Kenny White last, certainly not least, here at Sportsline, CBS Sports, and check him out, KennyWhiteSports.com. Kenny, I'll throw it over to you, man. Floor is yours. Any final thoughts here, and do you have a best bet?
Yeah, thanks, Drew. Thanks for having me on the show, guys. All the kind words, and I love you guys. The selections, more importantly, it's the analysis, and I think people want to hear that. It's so easy to just throw a game out and say, yeah, give me the 49ers, but why do you like the 49ers? What is it about them that you like in that spot? So yeah, I love the analysis that you guys have had on each game. It makes me want to run to the window and bet some of these games that you've already bet. Best play. It's funny. You guys are up at the top of the Westgate. I'm up at the top of the Golden Nugget contest, leading a couple of the leaderboards in college football. And I'm going to give you an NFL game. And my NFL was horrible early. It's been better as of late. I'm 9-1 in the circa the last 2 weeks, but not going to help me because I'm so far behind. But my best NFL plays the Bills getting 2 against the Bengals this weekend. Home revenge from the playoffs last year. They lost 27-10. I still don't think Joe Burrow's 100% yet. Their defense has played better, but I still think Buffalo's the better team. Love the pickup of Rasul Douglas, big physical corner. When White gets back, this is going to be the best corner tandem in the game. But that's an upgrade of almost a point for their defense this week. And I really think it's a great spot for them. It's a buy low. They haven't covered 4 straight, and Cincinnati has covered 3 in a row. 4 weeks ago, this game, the Bills would have been about a 4.5, 5-point favorite over Cincinnati. Now we're getting a 2-point advantage. It's been a 7-point adjustment. So I'm all over the Bills money line. I've also teased them up to 8, crossing those 4 key numbers.
He's Kenny White. Great bet there. KennyWhiteSports.com. Kenny, thanks for the time, man. That was a lot of fun for the hustle here for Week 10 college football, Week 9 NFL, I believe it is. You heard from Adam Trigger. Check him out at wagertalk.com, as well as myself, Drew Martin. We got CT Bets at CTBets16 on Twitter. And then again, Kenny White, KennyWhiteSports.com. Check him out on CBS as well. Please comment below where you agree, where you disagree, what you're looking to bet, where you're watching from. All is welcome here. Smash that like button. For Adam, CT, and Kenny, I am Drew. Thanks for tuning in. Cash those tickets.